everybody and welcome, my name is Ursa Ryan and today I will be teaching you how to use and play with mods in Civilization VII. I'm going to be taking you through the process in 3 stages. At the governor level, the people new to the game who are just trying to get to grips with it. At the sovereign level, where we'll talk a little bit more about the mods that you need to know to help you really advance your understanding and gameplay, learning to use the mods to actually further your ability in the game. And finally at deity level, where I'll show you how to use the mods to really perfect your game and also give you a nosebleed due to their difficulty. Just a quick note, if you play Civilization VII on console, so PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, to my knowledge, unfortunately, it is not possible to use mods. I feel sorry for you, it's just something that isn't supported. To those of you who use Steam or Epic, well, mods are also not supported on either of those. However, mods are possible to use with PC. Whilst this guide will be a one-stop shop to help you get on board with mods, I would encourage you to join the Ursa Ryan Discord. There are entire modding sections on the Discord that are full of very helpful, wonderful people who not only know how mods work, but can also give you good recommendations. And there's also a section called Ursa's mod list where you can find not only instructions from me, but also a list of the mods that I use. That's enough preamble, let's get stuck in and explain how to use mods for people playing on governor difficulty. Now, as you start playing on Civilization VII, you will notice in the additional content section, there is this bit called add-ons, a place to manage add-ons for the game, including both player-created mods and official Firaxis add-ons. This essentially is 2 things. Firstly, a list of all of the DLC that you have bought, and secondly, a list of all of the mods that you have enabled. Remember this screen, whilst it is impossible to actually get mods using this screen, it will tell you what is enabled. If you've done all the hard work of putting a mod on your PC and it's not showing up on this screen, you haven't done it properly. It's also worth bearing in mind that if you add mods whilst the game is open, often they won't show up until you restart the game. So if in doubt, do the old computer thing, turn it off and turn it back on again. So if you can't use Steam or Epic to get mods and you can't get them through the game, how do you get them? Well, this is the place for you. CivFanatics, a long-running Civilization website that serves as both a forum for the games of pretty much every single Civ game from Civ 1 onwards, but also in this instance acts as the hub for Civilization VII downloads. Simply go up to the top here, click on downloads, and then click on Civilization VII downloads. From here, you will be greeted with an overwhelmingly large selection of mods to use. There are lots of them, and let me tell you, some of them are brilliant, and some of them are very, very bad. This is where places like my Discord come in handy because we've sort of filtered through the ones that you need, but you can also go to the right-hand side onto the filters and filter by, for instance, downloads. I'm not saying that popularity is everything, but if a mod has 71,000 downloads, like for instance Sukritact simple UI adjustments, chances are it's pretty good. And yeah, in this instance, it is a fantastic mod. Find a mod you like, click on it, have a little read through everything that's going on to see if it's one you like, and take note of the instructions of how to load it. The easiest way, or the most simple way of doing this, is to manually download every mod. So simply go to the top, click on download, and place it in the appropriate folder. Sometimes the instructions are better than others. This is, for instance, only giving you instructions of how to put it into a Windows computer. If you're using Apple or Linux, then you might have a slightly different process. But just note, all of the mods in Civilization are downloaded in zipped files. You extract it into the relevant mod folder, and hey presto, if you've done it right, it should appear in-game. Simply toggle it on or off to your heart's content. Now, I hear you, Ursa, this is not particularly graceful or elegant. I'm using a lot of mods, and what if they update? Do I have to individually go in and update every single mod every time there's a patch released? Well, yes, unfortunately you would. You would have to do this manually. Every few days, go back to the downloads website and check which mods have been updated, which ones haven't, and then manually update them all by deleting and re-enabling. It's a pain. It doesn't work very well. And that is essentially the biggest problem with the fact that there is currently no Steam or Epic integration. However, this is where the mod manager comes in. Have a look on the left-hand side in the top resources section. You will see this, Civ Mods, Civ 7 Mods Manager. This is where you come first. This is a standalone mod that, again, you download through the Civilization Fanatics website, but instead of being put into the mod folder, it installs like a program, and it acts as an interface for mods. This is what I use, and here it is. If you click on available mods at the top, this gives you exactly the same list as is on CivFanatics, but unlike before, there is a handy little button where I can just simply press install and it gets put into the relevant mod folder for me and everything is done automatically. Then, once I've done that, I can click on the installed mods section and this gives me a list of every single mod that I currently have loaded in. As you can see, I've already enabled quite a few. There's a button down in the bottom left that you can click to check to see whether or not all of the mods are up to date. You can manually on the top left press this just to double check, but if they aren't up to date, you press this button and it does it for you. Now, it's not all perfect. If you put a mod in manually, like I've done for Unlock or Memento, sometimes it gets a little bit confused. And if the mod makers, not pointing a finger at you, Roman Holiday, don't put the version numbers properly into the website, sometimes it gets confused and you just have to update it manually. But this is a fantastic place that takes all of the admin out of mod management. It is brilliant. Again, if you're not sure where to start, click on available mods at the top and sort either by rating or by downloads. The best ones naturally float to the top. You can actually see pretty much every single one of the top ones I have downloaded. Now I can hear you say, Ursa, I'm new to the game. This is all incredibly overwhelming. Which ones do I use? Will mods change my understanding of the game? Is it possible to teach myself the game incorrectly by using mods? Well, yes, it is very complicated. Take it easy at the beginning. Let me show you some of the easiest to use mods that you can use in-game that will infinitely improve your experience without really changing the game too much, so it won't impact on your understanding of those first few runs. There is such a thing as information overload. First of all, may I point you in the direction of Zhekoff's Colourful top panel. You've guessed it, the point of this mod is to make the panel at the top of the game colorful. Does it change much apart from that? No. But does it improve your experience by adding a splash of sunshine into a very grey game? Absolutely it does. These are the sort of fantastic, very easy to use quality of life mods that don't really change anything, but just make you happy. Next, we have Resource Resorts. What does this one do? Well, it simply changes the way that the information on the trade screen is displayed to you by sorting them properly into a really, really easy to digest way. Look at this. All of the resources have actually been lined up rather than just being randomly thrown around. If you go into the options in the game, you can click on add-ons and there are all kinds of ways that you can resource or resort your resources. Say for instance, I want to group settlements by the number of resource slots or separate cities and towns on the resource screen. Whatever it is, it will make this resource screen so much easier to navigate because everything will be in a logical order. It will save you great amounts of headache. Next, we have Daniel's Lens mod pack. This mod is a combination of other mods that simply add lenses in. What are lenses? Well, when you go into the game, you click down in the bottom left and you can toggle between a bunch of them. Now, some of these have been implemented in-game. For instance, I believe the settler lens, which lets you see where you can settle, the religion lens, which shows you which settlements follow which religions, and the continent and trade lenses. I believe these are all in the base game, but it adds things like the discovery lens and it will keep being updated. Remember, some mods will become redundant as the game updates itself, but it just gives you a little bit extra. If you find some of the interfaces in the cities a little bit confusing, the Better City and Town tools, or the City Hall mod, is the one for you. This lets you do things like color code your buildings. It gives you an assistant to put unique quarters together properly. It gives you one-click repairs. It essentially makes this screen a little bit better. Information can come in a little bit of overload, but it goes a long way to helping you decide what is the best thing to do in your settlements. As you can see, the possibility for mods is fairly infinite. Have a play, see which ones you like. Remember, you can always turn them off and on from the main menu. Utilize what you think is going to help you. You'll be modding successfully and wonderfully in no time whatsoever. Now we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail. The people who are really trying to play the game at sovereign level. You are players who are fundamentally getting to grips not with how the game works, but how to beat it really successfully. You're looking for strategies and you're looking for mods that will aid you with the development of really beating the game at its more advanced levels. You need to know exactly how the game works so that you can smash it open. Now, the big difference between a sovereign player and a governor player is that I don't feel afraid to overload you with information. You need to see all the information that you can get in order to make valid and correct opinions about your in-game strategy. There is no such thing as too much information. And we start with this mod, Leonardfactory's Policy Yield Previews. Hands down, this is one of the best mods I have ever seen for a Civilization game ever. And I mean that as a genuine compliment. complement. It adds estimated yield previews for social policy and crisis policy cards on the government screen. It also gives you yield previews in the tech and civic tree, in the leader attributes panel, and in the city-states bonus selections. So what does that look like in game? It's wonderful. If I have a look at the social policies in my government, we can see not only the list of possible cards I could put into my government, but the list of cards that I already have in. And hey presto, anything that gives me a yield has an estimated yield of what I'm actually getting by having that policy in my government. Big disclaimer, Civ 7 is mysterious and complicated. These are estimated yields. They will not always be 100% accurate, but they're pretty good. For instance, you may look at Bread Dance and think 4 culture to all farming towns and 4 food to all fishing towns is a good deal, but as you can see, it gives me 0, because if you actually look at my game, I don't have any farming or fishing towns. You might forget that when looking at the cards. Also, gain happiness on the palace equal to your cultural attribute. What does that even mean? I guess it gives happiness on 1 building for cultural attribute, which if I go in, you can see we have 1, 2, 3 policies. Do you think maybe it would give me 3? Nope, it gives you 2. It really is that bad. It's a very confusing card. Whereas gift economy, that's giving me 62 gold and 62 happiness. Which one shall I put in? I wonder. Maybe it's the card that gives me 6 influence or the card that gives me 529 gold. You're playing the game on a more difficult level now. You need to know where the yields are so that you can actually take the game apart. Don't be messing around with 6 influence per turn when you can get 2 influence and settlements for every resource assigned to them. Yep, that is 148 influence. You better believe it is. As you go through the tech and civic trees, it gets even better. If I have a look at Steam Engine Mastery, you can see +1 production on camps and +1 food on farms and plantations. The game's worked it out for me. Ursa, you have a combined total of 51 food and 5 production if you get this mastery. So I know to focus it. Here's my next choice. Do I go for electricity mastery? Well, actually, that would be 50 gold and 20 science. Or do I go for urbanization mastery? That's only 15 production. I think it would be way better to go for that mastery, don't you? Works with civics as well. Thinking about going democratic? Well, those are the sort of yields you're going to get. Look at the happiness, look at the culture, compare it to the fascist yields, and you can see that's a lot of production. I don't really want to be throwing that away. There's a card here that gives me a huge amount of production towards military units, but a +1 gold maintenance for all units. How much does that cost? I can't be bothered to go and work out how many military units I've got. Well, it tells you 77 gold. I'm making 5,695. I feel that's going to be okay for me. I believe the mod tells you what bonuses you'll get when you suzerain, but I haven't seen that in action. And I believe it's supposed to give you some information based on your empire and leader abilities, but perhaps that's going to come in a future patch. Still, this will let you optimize your empire like no other mod in the game. It's wonderful. Even in Civ 6, we didn't have something that told us what the future benefits would be, the things that we were going to unlock. Look at that, 188 food. That's a mastery that's worth going for. It's stupendous. So if it's information we want, it's information we shall have. And that leads us to Sukritact's simple UI adjustments. So good, it got him hired literally by Theraxis. That and all the wonderful mods that they've made over the years. The changes this mod gives you are too numerous to mention. And some of these have actually been stolen in-game by Theraxis, which I find entertaining. Like, for instance, it was this mod that brought the change in that made worked yields, the yields that you're actually getting, bigger than the ones you're not. Hence why these yields are small and these ones are big. That came from this original mod. You can see the tooltips that you can see when I put my cursor over something gives you a lot more information than normal, such as connections. That's really useful. Actually knowing which settlements Cahokia is actually attached to makes a big difference. This UI mod helps with a lot of those things. This mod also made it really apparent which buildings are ageless, which buildings were modern or exploration, or even obsolete. It helps you to see what wonders do by making these nice and big, and it makes it very apparent when something's damaged, which even to this point the game can struggle with at times. Truly a very handy mod. In a similar line, TCS improved plot tooltip is a good one. This actually interacts with Sukritakt's mod quite well, and some of the aforementioned benefits I was talking about, it could come from this mod, so that's a big disclaimer. The things that Sukritact changed and the things that this mod changed sort of overlapped a little bit. Just just get them both. You'll find what you need. Again, the more information you get on every tile, the better. You need to know what's going on. Have a good grasp of the numbers, and you'll have a much better time trying to work out what on earth is going on. A nice simple one here, Enhanced Town Focus. This is a quality of life mod that makes towns a little more understandable. Here is a town. This town has more than 7 population. That means I can specialize it. But if I do specialize it, what will happen? Well, if I go in, the game doesn't really give you a huge amount of information. It just simply tells you roughly what will happen. Culture and science on quarters, production on camps, woodcutters, clay pits, mines, and quarries, influence per settlement connected to this town. Well, now we can find out a bit more. Let's say I wanted the urban center. If I hover my cursor above it, we can see a better description. All of my town's production is converted into gold. All of the town's food is sent to connected cities, and I get 2 science and 2 culture. It even tells you that the game has forgotten to mention that it's 1 culture and 1 science per age. You see? This is the sort of thing these mods really help with, because I only have 1 quarter in this town. However, I'm getting 2. That is absolutely ridiculous. I never even noticed that. You see, this is how good this mod is. It tells you things that the game should have told you anyway. If I build a second quarter, now we can go in and see, there you go, 4 science, 4 culture, an urban center. Well, what if I wanted it to be a farming town instead? Well, I'd only get 2 food because I have 1 fishing boat. What if I wanted a hub town? Well, I'd get 8 influence because there are 4 settlements connected. 4 times 2 equals 8. Simple. It shows you the thought town doesn't do anything for you. It's a small mod, but it makes such a difference. Like, I might have noticed that this town is worth 10 influence. That's a good find. Pretty self-explanatory, this one. First, Dan's cool UI quick buy button. It does a few things, but essentially makes the bar at the top a little bit cleaner and adds the ability to simply quick purchase. Especially in cities, it's really handy. Now I don't need to go between the tabs. I have all the information I need here. 2 connected settlements, 19 population, and instead of producing a bazaar with production, I can simply buy it with gold. And I don't need to click anything. It's great. And finally, Moxl Map Search. Look, we actually have search in. If I put rough in, you can see every rough terrain tile has now been highlighted. Really handy if you're playing somebody like Greece, or you want to put a wonder down that is dependent on rough terrain. It's not perfect. I can't search for units, for instance, and there's no ability to ping to things, so I know there's wine here if I look for it, but I can't go from bit to bit. It's not 100% finished yet, but it really helps. For instance, I can find all the woodcutters in my empire, all of the mines, or where all of the tundra is, if I'm wondering whether or not playing Russia is a good idea. As you can see, there's nothing here that I've described that actually changes the gameplay. All I'm doing is offering you information that will develop and expand your understanding of the game. You're playing on a hard difficulty. You can't just be going in blind. You need to know what's going on. And now, hopefully, you do. But I can hear you troublemakers at the back. Ursa, we know all this. We're experts. We play the game, not on Sovereign, but Deity Difficulty. How do we use mods? Well, this is where we use mods to really perfect the forward planning and to make the game give us a really hard time. Let's start with the most requested mod in the history of Civ, wltk's Detailed Map Tacks. Yep, that's right. Map Tacks are back. And why are they so important? Well, this game is pretty far in. I've already built my empire. I know what I'm doing, but what if I'm planning? What if I need to know where my empire is going? Well, let's wind this game right back. If we go down to the bottom left, we now have Map Tacks. On this is a list of everything from city hall and palaces to all of the buildings available, all of the wonders available, and all of the improvements available. We can use this to plan what I want to do in advance in such a way that I can't forget about it. Let's, for instance, say that this game I'm running Augustus in a production science focus. Deciding where I put my libraries and my academies as well as my production buildings is going to be very important. I need to know where my resources are and I want to plan around them. However, it's very, very easy to forget what on earth you're doing. Not anymore. We could, for instance, find this tile. It has 2 resources next to it, so this would be a +2 adjacency science tile. We go in, we find the library, select it, and as you can see on the left, it updates itself to depending on which tile I pick, depending on the adjacencies. It even tells you where you can't put them. So this library, 2 science for the yield and adjacency bonus of +2. You click and bam, it has a map tack. It's a little bit small, so they can be difficult to see unless you zoom out really fast. They look big on the map, but that is now tacked and I shouldn't forget it. Let's say I'm going to double that up with the early game production building, the barracks. Same adjacencies, click it, pop it down, and bam, both of these are lined up. Isn't that handy? It means that later on, I might decide, I have a granary on this tile. That means it's an ageless building, which means I want to put another ageless building on that tile. Let's go for a brickyard. That makes that into a quarter. However, I need to improve the adjacency of these tiles. I want my libraries to be really good. So I can plan and say, okay, I can build the Colosseum. The Colosseum must be adjacent to a district. Well, that means I can pop it here. And if I pop it there, it will increase the adjacency of the library and the barracks by +1. If I click it, you can see, bam, they've both gone up by 1. Amazing. Maybe I want to improve this more. Let's plop down the Angkor Wat, a wonder I would like to build. I can pop it on this tile so I don't forget. And hey presto, we're now up to +6. Then later in the game, if I'm like, I really want to put a building down, maybe I'll put it on this tile. I can say, no, I have a plan. Now, why is this important for Deity? The planning begins to get exponentially more complicated, and you can look out onto the map to really plan things in advance. So for instance, as I look out, I can already see that over to my right, there's a really nice area with a bunch of resources. I want to maximize this, so I'm actually going to get libraries and plonk 2 down. In order to do that, I need 2 settlements that are far enough away from each other to allow for that. So I'm going to plonk 1 city hall on this tile and 1 city hall on this tile. You can see they're far enough away from each other to allow for that. Then I can say, hey, the Colossus could be put down on this tile to improve these both. Let's just throw this in and make sure these are both really sciencey tiles. So we'll make sure the academies go down. It's good, but I'd want to make sure the production was enough in these settlements as well. So I could say, okay, make sure we put the barracks down with the blacksmith. And in this settlement, I could do exactly the same thing, because it's important to remember that I would like the blacksmith and the barracks between the resources, because later on, I might forget about that and say, look, there are 2 mountains. This would be a +2 adjacency monument. Maybe I'd want to put that down and I could place it, forgetting about my original plan. Map tacks are brilliant. You change your mind? You say, no, okay, we don't need any of these anymore. Colossus got built, plan over, we'll redo this. On Deity, the AI has a ferocious advantage over you. Some cases it can be anything up to 80% of your yields or more. It cheats thoroughly. So you need to plan ahead. You need to make sure you know where your specialists are going, and to do that, you need to make sure you have the right buildings in place. The other thing it's really good for is unique improvements. This game, I was running large amounts of the Ming Great Wall, which have to be placed adjacent to each other, but if they are, you can get very good yields from them. Planning for it is tricky. So you can see I have started to build some stuff over here, but I need to remember, don't put a building down on this tile. So Great Wall, then we'll put Great Wall, Great Wall, Great Wall. Before you know it, you have a plan to take over the world. Handy in this case, because I might be tempted to put a wall on this tile, which could ruin my plans for later. Or maybe I put a building down over here, forgetting my plans. It also reminds you to use the city-state improvements that you've worked. This is a great example because the monasteries can be put around the walls because they don't count as quarters. So I might start scattering them nicely in places where they will be shielded and protected. How wonderful indeed. As you push your game into something really difficult, the next thing you'll need is yet not another map pack. This is an infamous mod for Civilization that adds in true start locations, but it also gives you different and interesting map scripts, including bigger maps. When you have it enabled, as we go through to set the game up, you'll see we have different map types. The base, Continents Plus, Continents, Archipelago, Fractal, and Shuffle, as well as Terra Incognita. No one still knows what this one actually does. It doesn't matter how many times it's explained. It's a mystery. But as you can see, we have other options. Continents Plus Plus. This is a really fun and much more interesting script for the game. If you're looking to challenge yourself, things like this are a lot of fun. It also gives you access to the true start location maps. These are huge maps that will test you by giving the AI and you basically infinite space to expand into. If you're willing to put up with it as well, there is a giant Earth map. It doesn't quite load in properly, but this thing is massive. You're a Deity player, have some fun with it. It's also worth pointing out that Yet Not Another Map Pack is the mod I use to give me these amazingly massive TSL maps. Look, you're good at the game. Have some fun, treat yourself to a run on a map like this. They're so good. I couldn't recommend them more. And finally, I hear you're finding the game too easy. You need more of a challenge. Well, this is the one for you. RHQ Artificially Intelligent AI Mod. A combined effort with Andy Nemeti and Roman Holiday. This is an overhaul of the internal AI of the game. It starts by saying more war. That's sort of all you need to know. This mod has a Discord that you can go to, and I'd recommend doing that if you're keen to see some of the discussion around how the mod is being put together. But effectively, it does things like this. Increases settling, increases victory obtainment, makes the AI more aggressive, makes it better at war, makes it better at settling, makes it better at diplomacy. It just makes the AI play infinitely better. In the runs that I have played with this mod, the game has been noticeably more difficult. Does it fix everything? No, but it's being continually improved, and one thing is for certain, it is a huge improvement on the AI of the game. If you're finding Deity too easy, this is a mod you want to use. If you want more information or you're looking to get into modding, Discord is your friend, as well as the CivFanatics website. CivFanatics themselves have a Discord. There is a Reddit Discord. There is an official Civilization Discord, and, you know, an Ursa Discord that has an entire modding section on it, and it's brilliant. Plug, plug, plug. These are all places to get your teeth into the nitty-gritty of the game. But ultimately, that's how I use mods. I hope you have as much fun with them as I do. By the time Civilization VII had been launched, Civ 6 had tens of thousands of mods. There was an encyclopedia, a wealth of beautiful information of people making things from Mario mods to immersion mods to silly mods to spectacular mods to plain rubbish mods. And if Civilization VII is anything to go by, this trend will continue. Thank you so much, everybody. If you like this sort of video, if you don't mind giving it a like, subscribing, that would be highly appreciated. And let me know in the comments if there's anything else you want me to do another guide of this style on. What would you like to see me talk about? Are there any mechanics of the game you don't understand? Are there any things you want to improve? I am but your humble YouTube servant, and if I can help, I certainly will try. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye. And finally, a very special shout out goes to Glorious Petra, Matthew Wilkinson, Paul Coffey, Portland, The Nickerman, Daddy Bear Todd, Toon General, Kappa Yobby Vireni, The Uncivil Engineer, Lillian, Radiatore, Technology Poet, Poppy Dude, Clibben Thirdas, Dayboy91, Mushkin Mandletort, Pete, Scott Stratton, Major King Kong, Skeptical Bear, Cinnamon Beard, Private Selection, Genoa Salami, Callum Billy, Garrett Gowan, L Truant, Creston, RB Hedged, Burial, I'm Daft, Gooberman, Dr. Bobby, Mixomatosis, NTG Golfman, Indigenous 68, Teddy Ursa, Barnaby Rex, Charlie Bears, Nate the Great, Alex Frost, Mean Penguin, Interplanet Janet, Frankincense Battlezord, Bookaluke 79, Bob Loblaw, Geography Teacher, Juvara, Morax, Sinikush, Echo Bear, Deja Fu, Kovawoo, Legally Trash, Is This Live, Sortadutch, Rad Bickley, Shadow of Gaia, Flower Power Bear, Dan Jamo, Buster Blader, Bob Tway, Abstract Fun, Slither Alley, JP Genius, Arctic Fox. Thank you everyone for your support. Goodbye.